purpose of this video is to talk about our reality in which we live and the meaning of it, kind of. So I'm going to start again kind of from the beginning, even though these issues have been explained before. I'm going to do it again so that it's crystal clear in your mind before we move forward. The idea of your soul, your spirit, your essence, all these things. And so without going into any great detail, I'm going to just define that stuff again. So your essence, what is it? It's exactly what the word means, essence. In reality, when I say essence, that is defining what you are at your core, without any added peripherals, without a physical body, without any add-ons from God, the uncreated essence of what you are. When I say essence, it is something that cannot be created. It has always and eternally existed forever and ever and ever. It is co-eternal with the Creator God, Brahma. It is co-eternal with the eternally existing Brahman, the God that Jesus prayed to, co-eternal with that God. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be and what is happening right now and what has been going on in this kalpa of time since your essence awoke is it is developing its core essence of what it truly is, with the assistance of Brahma, God, with the assistance of Christ, Jesus, with the assistance of Satan, with the assistance of everything and anything that has ever existed. The essence of what you are is choosing through free will to create itself into something that can be recognized not only by itself, but by all other essences and gods and such. So when I say essence, it is the core beginningness of what you are. An inanimate object does not have a core independent essence any more than, for instance, if I go out in my shop and I build something, does it have a essence? No. Does it have a soul? No. Does it have a spirit? Well, kind of, but no. It's just an inanimate object that I have built or created. It may reflect who I am, but it really isn't got it, or it doesn't have an independent, sovereign essence that has the ability of free will to continue to develop itself. It's inanimate. So when I talk about essence, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what everyone should be talking about if they understood the true meaning of all these things. It's very confusing for most people. And why is that? Because they don't have any experience dealing directly with God, the Creator. So they are left to their own inspiration, their own individuality. They're left to what is written in books. They're left to using their intelligence and their brain to decide what reality is. And they don't have the direct knowledge link to God to tell them what reality is. And that's why everything is so confusing, for the most part. So what is a soul? You know how you look at your body and you say, well, and I'm talking about people that are spiritually awakened, and you look at your body and you say, well, this is my physical body. It is representative of what or who I am because I'm able to command it to a certain degree. And so that's a reflection of me. I have a body. A soul is exactly like a physical body in a sense that in this physical world, without a physical body, you can't do anything. So for instance, I've got this cell phone. I can pick it up and move it, but it won't go anywhere on its own. I actually have to physically pick it up and move it. I use my physical body to do that. I am controlling this physical body through the brain and everything else to pick up a cell phone and to put it back down. A soul is a container similar to a physical body. A soul is a container that was given to you by God. It is 100% pure. It isn't divisible by parts. For instance, your body has trillions of cells and electrons and atoms and etc., etc., etc. But a soul is not divisible. It is one. Now, can it be combined with all the souls that were ever created? Not really. It's because God created it and allowed for every essence that is ever awakened, it gets a soul. Otherwise, it cannot exist within the awakened state that God has created. So it contains all that you are, and it goes wherever you want. It's kind of like a suitcase. And if you consider what you are and what you've developed yourself into, that's all contained within that suitcase. And that's called your soul. And when you become a physical human being, it's like you're carrying the suitcase within the physical body to a certain extent, to the best of your physical body's ability to display the knowledge and wisdom and everything that's held in that suitcase, which is your soul. Now there's a thing called spirit. And what is a spirit? Well, a spirit is best understood as inanimate, so to say, or it animates physical things, a way to look at it. And I've defined this before because it's well known and people use it. They'll say, wow, look at that horse jumping and bucking and everything. It's very spirited. So, as versus one that's just laying on the ground, not dead, but it ain't doing anything. So one is spirited, the other isn't. That is kind of like a definition of what a spirit is. So for instance, if people, I'm going to get to this later, but I'm going to bring it up right now. I was going to get to it later. There's a thing that they refer to as NPC, non-playing characters. I've heard this on many different channels, and I've read about it, and people have written about it hundreds of years ago. And it's NPC is non-playing characters. And I'm going to say they say because I don't know the exactness of the ratio and all that kind of stuff. But I have heard it said that there are roughly 30% of the human beings have an essence that is independent of both God and Satan and exercises free will to do what they want to do, basically. And then there's another third that just crossed the line, so to say, and they follow Satan or Shiva. When I say or, it's the same thing. And they are affiliated with, they follow, they worship, they whatever you want to call it, but not Christ and not Brahma, but Shiva or Satan. And they also have an essence, and therefore they have a spirit, and it is also exercises free will and has free will, but they have chosen to follow another source rather than Christ or the source of God. And then there's the NPCs, which are non-playing characters. They have no independent essence. They did not awaken within Brahman from the light of God, Brahma, but instead they are more like a clone or more like if you create a computer, the computer has no individuality to it as compared to a human being. But does it have a spirit? Well, kind of. It doesn't have an essence, but it does kind of have a spirit. But what is the spirit that it has? It has the spirit of the creator of that computer. And so NPCs actually do have a spirit. They have a spirit of the creator of the NPC, non-playing character. Non-playing characters are human beings, absolutely no difference physically speaking, except for the fact that they are spiritually hollow. There is nothing in there. They are not independent, but they are created beings from the God of this world. Now, some people could say maybe, are there NPCs created by God? Meaning Brahma? No, definitely not. There are no NPCs created by God. They are all created by Satan or Shiva. And there's millions, billions of them on the earth at this time. They carry out the wishes and desires of their creator. And so there's no soul to them. They don't have an independent soul. They don't have an independent essence, but they do carry a spirit, because the spirit is a link, if you will. It's like, well, I guess some people in spiritual terms say there's a golden thread from your physical body to your soul or your spirit or whatever. And so, is there a link from the NPC back to its creator? Absolutely there is. Is it independently operating on its own? Well, certainly it could be. NPC human beings are, so to say, autonomous, but really there's no such thing as autonomous, because autonomous just means it's able to function on the programming that was pre-programmed into it. So it's not really autonomous. It's not functioning on its own. It may function according to the computer programming without having to pay attention to it for any given amount of time. So an NPC could, in fact, be an autonomous type human being from birth to death. Pre-programmed, created by Satan. And but they do have a direct link to their creators. I hope that makes sense. That's kind of important to know, because you know how I rail against the concept of non-duality? I will give you a short story of why I do that. I do that because I was in a spiritual group. We called it Sangha, with a guru. And I was in that group for several years, meeting with them on a weekly basis. And but I went way beyond that. I actually desired to have meetings with the guru and a few other people outside the Sangha group, and I would go there on a weekly basis or more often and go to a latte place and have latte and drink coffee all day long and 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes and just enjoy exploring what was in their head and sharing what I had. And I instituted that, or shall I say, I instigated it on my own. So, in the course of doing that, unbeknownst to myself at that time, I came across an NPC, non-playing character. And it was extremely frustrating because this individual was incredibly intelligent. In fact, he was a math professor at the local university here in Las Vegas. And so I met with him many times. And it was very frustrating because I'm dealing with a very intelligent person. He's a math professor. And it was just an endless, I don't want to call it an argument, but I guess you could call it that, about duality as versus non-duality. And it was just so frustrating. Why was it frustrating? Because he was an NPC. Because there was non-duality according to him. He took the effort to explore the absolute furthest depths, spiritually speaking, that is possible for, shall I say, an enlightened human being, to find out the truth or the source of all things. And in doing this, he concluded that reality is non-duality, that his spirit, soul, everything had no independent source. And in fact, it was God, he referred to himself. And when I say he referred to himself in that way, 100% of people that profess non-duality proclaim themselves to be God. And those that don't are simply ignorant of what non-duality is. But when they proclaim themselves to be God, they're not saying it in such a way that you would normally think. They're not going, hey, look at me, everyone, I'm God, I'm this, like a narcissistic attitude. It isn't that way at all. But in fact, it's like if I were to take my physical body and prick the finger and blood came out, and the blood had an independent way of communicating, because really when you think about it, blood is able, every cell of your body has kind of like an independent ability to do whatever it does. I mean, that's why you get cancer and die, that the cancer is like functioning independent of the body, and it eventually kills the body. But every blood cell has an independent ability to do whatever it does and communicates, and it has a little bit of independence. But if it had the ability to speak, for instance, what would it say? It would say, I'm non-dual. I'm part of this physical human body that I came from. And though I was taken out, and now the blood is on a scientific instrument and able to communicate, it's going to communicate at the highest level and say, no, I have no independence of myself. I am, in fact, a part of the human body guy known as John. Does that make sense? So that is exactly what non-duality is all about. An NPC, non-playing character, is like the blood out of my body. It has no independent source. It has no independent essence. It is, in fact, a part of its creator. So all NPCs are satanically produced, basically. And they have no independent heart, soul, if you will. That's what non-duality is all about. Now you can understand how frustrating and confusing it was at the time, as well as this would be frustrating and confusing for all people that don't understand what's going on in this world. Because you think everyone is like yourself. You think everyone has a separate essence. You think everyone has a separate soul, for instance. And when you come across another person that is very intelligent and has done as much research as you have on the subject, and possibly even more, and they're claiming, no, that's not true. In fact, non-duality is reflective of what the truth is. Well, you can clearly see the frustration that would ensue in that case, because you yourself know for a certainty that non-duality is not true. My independent essence is not a part of God. I was given all the tools to create myself from God, and in fact everything you see is God. My physical body is God, because this reality is an illusory creation in the mind of God, so everything is God. But am I God at my core essence? Absolutely not. I'm independent, just like God is independent in that way. So I hope that makes sense. So, where did I want to go with this? I'm not confused, by the way. I'm just looking at my notes. I will tell you when I think this is the last thing I wanted to cover. When I discovered NPCs, non-playing characters, on my own, I never read it before. I didn't have any understanding of what they were or anything else. I was exceedingly confused by dealing with this non-duality NPC guy. Being so confused, I did research upon research, and I was praying and fasting and everything else. And finally, how it happened was, and this, by the way, this process is true with everything that you're going to learn about spirituality. The same process works 100% of the time, and unless you get direct visions or revelations from God, this is the way you get the true spiritual truth, if you will. So I did the research on and on and on and on and on, and I was kind of meditating, fasting, praying, all at the exact same time, by the way. And this went by for, I contemplated the subject for at least maybe 2 years before I had this breakthrough, and this is how the breakthrough happened. I was actually sitting in this very chair right here several years ago, and contemplating and meditating and everything, and it's like, what in the heck is all this thing about? And it struck me, I think I was assisted by God, but nevertheless, this is how it happened. I recalled a ceremony that the 33rd degree Masons go through. And when I say I recalled it, I'm not a 33rd degree Mason, but nevertheless, I went through the temple ceremonies, and the issue with the temple ceremonies is not public knowledge anywhere in the world. But you can find the information on the internet, and it is exactly that goes on in the ceremonies. But the ceremony is an experience, whereas reading it in a book or on the internet is not an experience. It's just reading it. So the experience is different, okay? Same word for word stuff, but anyways. So I was recalling an incident that I had gone through, maybe 20 years prior, and it was like, oh, I remember something about, in this temple ceremony, something about this independent spirits, etc., etc., and it was leading me towards thinking about how NPCs can exist. And it was dealing with the source. It was dealing with the prior to being born as a human being. A lot of this stuff goes on in these temple ceremonies that they talk about this kind of stuff. And whether or not it's true, it doesn't matter. The whole point of the matter is this is what happened to me. And I thought about it and I go, oh, wait a second. They're acting out how God created human bodies for the essences or the souls that follow Brahma and follow Jesus. And so these human bodies are able to take on the soul of people that follow God so that they can continue their process of development. And in that deal, it talked about how Satan, Lucifer, said, well, hey, this is my world that you gave me, and so in fact I'm going to take the spirits and souls that follow me, and I'm going to have them inhabit those bodies that you've created. And it's like, okay, well, now we have a competition for who is going to habitate these physical bodies. And it is a competition. And so now you have, theoretically at the time, half of them, or thereabouts, habitated by souls that follow God, and half of them that follow Satan. But then there was something else that clicked in my head, that there's more than that, and that's where the NPCs come in. And though that recollection as I was sitting here in this chair didn't answer all my questions, it put me into a spirit of, like, I was like almost frantic. Think of yourself being in this situation. When I say frantic, that's the best word I can come up with. But I was in the spirit, and it's like I got up right after that, and I went to the Bible because I knew exactly where to go, and I opened it up and read, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, now that clarifies things. And then I recalled another book written by some Hindu guru 150 years ago or whatever, and I went and got that book and I read, and it's like, oh yeah, that further clarifies it. And then I got the confirmation of intuition, if you will, and it was like an awakening that was monumental. And still, I didn't have a full comprehension of what was going on. It still is materializing at this very moment, several years later, still trying to understand everything. But that's how you gain knowledge. You don't gain knowledge, true knowledge, by reading it in a book without the experiences to go along with it. That's not how you gain knowledge. That's how you gain information. There's a difference between wisdom, which knowledge can convert to wisdom, but information can never convert to knowledge or wisdom, because a computer has knowledge, or a computer has information, but it has no knowledge, and an NPC has no knowledge. It can independently function from birth to death. And when I say it can, it doesn't mean that it will. I mean, some of them might have to be rebooted by Satan. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Anyways, I think that's what I wanted to clarify today. Oh, yeah. The last thing, which was the main point of this video that I've been thinking about for the last week or two. But it didn't turn out to be the main subject matter. But anyhow, I wanted to talk about this reality that we live in. You know that I always say it's an illusion. But who cares if it's an illusion? You might as well consider it not an illusion, because what's the difference? You're here, you have to deal with it. You might as well think it's physical. It isn't. But who cares? That doesn't matter. 100% of everything that's here is kind of like a distraction for a reason, and it's to help you develop yourself. So if you think of this illusory realm, this illusory reality that you exist in, everything is a distraction of sorts, meaning if you're focused on something and you hear this barking dog in the background, that would be a distraction if you're trying to focus on something. But you need to pay attention to the distractions all over the place, because your focus is never going to get you where you want to go. For instance, you're going to have a barking dog that's from Satan. You're going to have a barking dog over here that's from God. And they're all distractions because you don't know what you're focused on. You don't know where you need to go or where you want to go. In other words, if you're watching my videos, you might think, well, I want to become enlightened and I want to be one with God. Okay, well, those are just words. You don't really know what that means. You just have a feeling in your heart that, oh, well, this is what I want. But you don't even know what God is. You don't know who God is. You don't know anything about this end-all, be-all thing. You just have this idea in your head. Well, that idea can manifest eventually and get you to where you want to go. But I guarantee you, when you get there, you're going to look back at this time in your existence and you're going to go, whoa, I sure didn't know what I wanted, because that wasn't what I wanted. I mean, this brings me back to an experience many years ago where I think I've told you this before. I wrote in my journal, which I haven't written in for the past year or two. I wrote in my journal the trials I was going through. That was 8 years long, and I wrote in my journal, there is nothing God can do. There is nothing anybody, no matter what. God could grant me eternal life and all the riches of the world and make it assured that I was going to go to heaven for all eternity and everything was peaches and cream. I wrote this in my journal, and I would testify when I do finally see God to his face. It wasn't worth it. I mean, it just wasn't worth it, the trials that you put me through, God. But that's okay. I mean, my attitude was, I can't do anything about it. I mean, I'm not in control of all these distractions that are making my life a living hell. It just is what it is. I have to deal with it. I mean, I have the free will to deal with those issues. But I am not the creator of those issues, and those issues were so difficult. I wrote in my journal that when I see God, I'm going to tell him face to face, it wasn't worth it. No matter what you reward me with, it wasn't worth it. Well, it was probably less than a year from that writing where I, became enlightened. And then I wrote in my journal, you know what? I could experience that frustration, that hardship, those trials that I wrote. I could experience those an infinite number of times for all eternity, And it is so worth it that it's incomprehensible to understand how worth it it really was. So if I can tell you that from my own experience, what I'm telling you now is you do not know what you want. You say you want to be one with God. You say you want to be enlightened, but you have no idea what it's going to take to get there. You have absolutely no idea of what it is when you do finally get there. Not when you finally get there, before you get there. You have no idea. I didn't have any idea. I thought I was on the wrong path. But in the end, I was so grateful, it was unbelievable. So when I say that, pay attention to the barking dogs, and I don't mean literally barking dogs. Pay attention to the distractions in your life. They are kind of like, because you have a will to be one with God, to be enlightened, because you have that will, you keep making free will choices to guide you in the direction you want to go, but recognize that the barking dogs, so to say, the distractions in your life that make life a living hell sometimes, are there for a good reason. They're there to help you along the way. It's like, think of the path. They talk about spiritual path. If you had no aim, what would be the point of a path? And if everything in existence was blissful, again, what is the point of a path? A path is the term path means you have an end point in mind, and you don't want to wander off the path, because why? You don't want to fall over a cliff and die. You don't want to go over here where all the monsters tear you to pieces and blah, 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 blah. So there's a path that you want to follow to get to where you want to be. The barking dogs and all those distractions and everything, they're kind of pushing you this way and pushing you this way. You don't want to be pushed. You kind of want to follow a straight path as quickly as possible to get to where you want to go. That's what's in your head. But recognize that is never going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to go this way, and you're going to go, because there is no way forward. I mean, if you go forward, you go over a cliff and die. So you have to go around that canyon and stuff. That's the distractions. And why? Because you don't know what you really want. You just think you know what you want. I think the guidance that would get you through anything is love in your heart. I think that is the only thing that will get you through the trials in reality. And when I say love, I'm not talking about love coming from someone else. You may have to go through hell in such a way that you will feel love coming at you from nobody in this world. That may be required, I don't know. But having love within your heart and extending that love to anyone and everyone deserving of that love is what will keep you moving forward and on that path. And when I say deserving, everyone deserving of your love, that's probably a misstatement, because in reality, when I went through the process, I had love for everyone. I had love for the demons and everyone, and lucky for me, God protected me from total annihilation, because I was absolutely ignorant of the dangers out there, shall I say, because I was so desirous to find the spiritual truth. I didn't care what the source was. It made no difference to me. If I had to go to Satan himself, I would have at that particular time, without any fear, by the way, with total trust in God that I would be protected. And that's what you need to be at eventually. Yeah, in closing, I shall just close with saying I love you. I really hope the best for you. Honestly, I actually pray for every single one of you. When I say I pray for every single one of you, that what that means is I don't know what to pray for, other than that you would feel love, that you would feel love from your God, that you would feel that somebody in this reality cares about you. Not that you could really fully understand that in this physical reality, but that, I mean, I can say this with 100% certainty. You have no idea the value of your heart and soul. You absolutely have no idea what you are. If you're not an NPC and you are a soul that chose God and you're here and you're confused in this reality and you're on the path and you feel like you're a fool half the time and you feel like you're a sinful person and all this stuff, it doesn't matter. If you have a heart and soul that you desire to continue on the path and hope to find joy in some other reality or whatever, I am telling you now, you absolutely have no idea what you are. You have no idea. You are like, why do you think the God of this world is so intent upon converting you? It's because of your value. You are an embryonic God, and you just have value that's unbelievable. And when I say value, I mean value in regard to love, because there isn't anything in reality, in all of reality, that has value except love. In the end, that is the only thing that's of value. And you are developing your essence into love. And in that, there is power. I want to talk about fantasy in maybe my next video or maybe another video down the road. I want to talk about fantasy because it's kind of an interesting subject, because people think that fantasy is simply that, fantasy. You know, like you watch movies where you fly through the air, or there's Superman, or you be Avatar, that movie, and stuff like that, and all these things that you think are fantasy, and it's like, well, it's just fantasy. Well, this reality you're living in right now, this instant, and watching me on this video, this is fantasy from fantasy world, so to say. This reality that we're existing in right now is no different. You will eventually, if not in the past, exist in a reality that is seemingly fantasy from your current perspective right now. Pretty cool ideas. And I'm saying it's real. It's absolutely 100% real. You're not going to live this life, reincarnate several times, and eventually die, and I'm going to be one with God, and me and God are, we're good buddies and stuff like that. No. You got so many future existences to live through that would appear to be fantasy from your current perspective. You got a long ways to go, buddy. I got a long ways to go. So, but I don't think any are tougher than this one. I think that this reality right here, I honestly believe it. When I say I believe it, no, I know it. There are none more difficult than this one. This is the toughest one. It's pretty tough for you and me. it's not tough for those that chose Satan. And the ones that chose Satan, almost all of them are like the world leaders today that exist on the planet. For the most part, they've. When I say for the most part, it might be 100%. I'm not entirely sure. They are followers of Satan. They have, so to say, sold their soul to the devil, so to say. That's just a saying, but they and they want to kill us all. Why do you think they're doing what? When I say all, I don't think they want to kill us all. They just want to thin the herd, so to say. Because think about it. We live in this world or this realm that Satan is in control of. But what do people like you and me want to do all the time? Well, we want to have a government, and we want to outlaw murder and rape and pillaging and plundering, and we think, well, this is fair and this is not fair, and we want to pass laws that make things fair. And well, you know, that's just not so fun for people that follow Satan. They want to do all those things, and so, you know, maybe our power is starting to overcome the power of the NPCs and the followers of Satan and everything, and so they need to cull the herd, which is why they are, you know, putting out the COVID vaccines and all those things. You know, you could say, well, maybe they didn't know it's going to kill everyone. Well, okay, maybe they didn't, but then why don't they stop it right now? Well, they're not stopping it because they want to kill us all. I mean, it's no big deal. When I say it's no big deal, it's no big deal to realize that and speak the truth. That's what's no big deal. I'm not going to sit around and play their game and act like, oh, I don't know, maybe they're not trying to kill us. Of course they are. But luckily, God protects me and keeps me alive, and maybe it's because I can make these videos and help you understand what is going on in this reality right now. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect yourself and pray for God to protect you, because you live in a very hostile reality realm right now. And, well, it's never going to get like there's a saying in Christian churches a lot of times. And the saying is something like, well, we need to make heaven on earth. We're going to make heaven on earth in our society. No, you're not. Nope, you're not going to make heaven on earth. It's not going to happen. This is Satan's realm. It's never going to be heaven on earth. You might be able to make a small heaven on earth in your family. Maybe you can have love in your family, but in all honesty, I think that's fake. I don't know of any family that is heaven on earth. I know of no family where everything is just wonderful and blissful and everything. Because, I mean, if you have children that are independent and have their own essence, they're going to go through episodes that are very defiant. And yeah, it's not going to be heaven on earth. Maybe for a period it might be. Then it might get back to a type of heaven on earth. But I have to take a deep breath because I speak too fast. I didn't have that much coffee. I guess I just got a lot to say. Anyways, I love you, and I hope the best for you. I know I always say that, but I actually do mean it. And I hope you guys take care of yourself. I hope everyone prays daily for protection in this hazardous reality we live in, so that you can continue to develop your heart and soul to become closer to God, to get closer to enlightenment, and to experience the things in life that you need to experience. And an interesting concept, this is the last thing, I promise. An interesting concept is you want to try to take care of your body and everything so that you can get older. And the reason I say that is because, think about this. if you, as a normal human being, excuse me, you grow up, you're an adolescent, and then you become a young adult, and on and on and on and on. It takes you almost 50 years of normal, everyday life and growth and learning how to cope with other individuals and rereading scripture and Vedas and everything else. By the time you're 50 years old, if you haven't died yet, now you're starting to discover new truths, new realities, and yeah, so you want to, if possible, live as long as you can, because every day you're able to discover something new or to try to understand spiritually certain things. And that's kind of important when you think about it, because it's never extinguished. It adds to your soul, so that when you're reincarnated or in another life or in another world or another realm or whatever that case may be after this life, it stays with you. It is never gone. And so the mundaneness of, like learning how to feed yourself and all that kind of stuff, that's not new ground. That's not new territory. You've done that 100 times. It's just the same old without discovering any new things. So, like I said, the older you get, you start gaining wisdom and learning and stuff like that. So, try to keep yourself alive and stay on the path. Thank you for watching. I love you. Bye.